So per the National Reserve Study Standards, there are 4 sets of criteria that a component must meet in order to be considered a reserve component. Number 1, it must be a common area association responsibility. This can be determined from the association's governing documents. Number 2, the component must have a limited useful life. This is sometimes referred to as the EUL. Number 3, a component must have a predictable estimated remaining useful life, which is sometimes referred to as the ERUL. Number 4, the component must be above a certain minimum threshold amount. Now keep in mind, this amount varies from community to community, but it's good to know that it needs to be above a minimum amount. So there are a number of components that are sometimes considered reserve components when realistically they shouldn't be. One example of this is painting. Painting is typically a deferred maintenance item. It's not really a reserve component as you're not really replacing anything. Number 2 would be landscaping. Associations most of the time have a line item in their budget for landscaping, so it typically should not be considered a reserve component. Another one is something with a longer term useful life, such as a foundation of the building. That has an indeterminate useful life, so it really doesn't need to be included in a reserve study. Now keep in mind, these components and any other components can be included at the association's request, but just know that typically they are not. There are a couple different ways we can determine the component's estimated remaining useful life. The first thing that we should know would be to know when the component was initially installed or last replaced. That gives us a baseline to know about how old it should be. Then we use our engineering expertise and knowledge to determine if a component is aging fairly, poorly, or better than expected. The last piece of information is helpful to get input from the association, because there are many times when a component may be failing prematurely and we would not be able to determine this. One example of that would be a roof leak. So a limited common element is a component that is exclusively for the use of one or more residents, but less than all the residents. An example of this would be a deck, a patio, a driveway, or a concrete stoop or porch.